this is like the 5th time I've done taken this. And welcome back to episode 2 of Josiah Knees, the second translation in our series. If the first one was I don't care what people think, I care what people see, you can watch that video. I'll figure out how to link in the little cards on the corners here. One of those two. If you haven't seen that one, you can watch that one. So this one, second one, passion without precept is pretentious. And maybe that phrasing is pretentious with the P theme making it anyway. So this has taken too long all the other times I've recorded this, so I finally decided to write down my little points, and hopefully this works out better. But so passion without precept is pretentious. The origin of that principle for me was with music. I've mentioned before, a lot of content these days, and in this case particularly with music, is very lackluster, you could say. Well, maybe not lackluster, because it's very grandesque and passionate, but it lacks substance, it lacks precept. Of course, somebody might say, well, a lot of people have principles that they live by, and music is full of principles that the writers and the composers are trying to convey. But the point here being, even those principles are very just passionate, and the things that we live by are a lot of times determined, the things that we do are determined by the things that we feel, by the things that we like. The things that we oblige are very subjective a lot of times, and so that's, again, that's why I do all of this thinking, and that's why I'm making these videos at all, because of the resolve that I've come to, the objective perspective on life that I have found that does not have all of the holes and the open-ended questions that everybody else has, to offer. And it's not me. Again, this is God. This is the Bible. So the first layer of this principle is just the general aspect. There's a lot of rabbit holes that you can go into, and that's why I like this as like one of my staple things, because it's very applicable to a very many things, lots of facets of life. And so that's what makes this so difficult to talk about, because there's so many different areas that you can go into. But some of the more important ones to me, some of the ones that stick out for me, is this general principle of good versus bad. Passion, emotion, is not a bad thing inherently. In fact, it's a good thing inherently, because it's something that God gave all of us. But it can be used in bad ways, things that are not beneficial, as we all know, I'm sure. And precept, by nature, is always good, is always beneficial to abide by, and things like that. The objective reality of life, and the way that God says things ought to be. He has the best way to do it, including the best way to utilize emotions. So that's the good versus bad, is that when emotion is without precept, a lot of times it's even more than just pretentious. It's just outright bad. It's dangerous. Like I've said before, when you live life out of context, when you're just swayed by the roller coaster that is our emotions, then there's no structure, there's no the emotions become the sovereignty in our life. And gosh, that's a weird place to be. But so that's the one aspect, the more general aspect of this is why this is something that's good to pay attention to, because when passion supersedes precept, you get into a lot of dangerous places, and a lot of, like I said, open-ended questions, and there are holes in the philosophies that come out of just pure passion, and that's especially true with music. And because music is so influential to people, then it just perpetuates those ideologies. And that's why so much music is so depressing these days, because everybody is just, and it's popular too, because all the consumers of the music are stuck in these ruts of life, and the hopelessness of things. And then so the business aspect of music and the identifying with those people in terms of the artist, it continues. But anyway, so this is very applicable for me when I write music, is I love to put precept over passion, because it just means more. And in another sense, I think actually it makes the passion more meaningful. It gives the passion more credibility, because now the authenticity of it, the individuality of our personalities, our emotions, is given a structure to stand on, and it means more. The emotions themselves actually hold more meaning when they're concentrated in the right place, and especially because it comes out better, it comes out good instead of it turning out bad. And so in yet another sense, the sensitivity to the idea of emotions, one way that I like to think about this is in terms of the whole like being mature thing that I was talking about, and to so it's good versus bad, and now good versus better. Just because I have the principle, the precept, doesn't mean that my emotions justify me however I want to apply the principle, apply my rights, my liberties to things. Just because I can do something, and I might feel like I want to at the time, doesn't mean I should. Ring ring. So in a simplistic example of that is like with a child. If an adult is dealing with a child, they will deal with them, they will speak to them differently than they would with somebody who's on the same level as them, the same understanding as them, and temperament and tolerance and things like that. So all the more I would like to be sensitive and be controlled in the way that I do things, even if I might have a right to say something a certain way, or to be blunt about something because it's the truth, and that can be a little demeaning in some ways, because it's difficult to think that we could be a little immature in the sense of how we deal with our emotions, but that's how we are. That's why we need precept, that's why we need principle, to help guide our feelings, so that we don't cry when we're hungry. That's what babies do. But anyway, so there's that. There's the good versus better in the way that we apply principles in coherence with our emotions, and use them and concentrate them in the right way. And then so the other part of this is the good versus bad, good versus better, and now sooner versus later, in terms of learning for us, growing. If we allow ourselves to live longer, just going along with emotions, then we will prolong the self-inflicted pain and the emotional roller coaster that comes with that. So the sooner that we can really do our due diligence to learn the precepts and the principles that will help guide us, the better. It's like I mentioned last week, the smart person learns from their own mistakes, the wise person learns from other people's mistakes. I would rather not have to experience the hard way, the long way myself, the effects of these things. I'd rather learn and apply things sooner, and inevitably that will be from learning from other people's experiences and listening to other people who know what they're talking about and listening to what God says. It just makes everything better. But the idea of it being pretentious is, you know, sometimes it's a little ignorant, like I'm saying now. Sometimes we just don't realize in the moment that or even later, that what we did was not good, or what we did was not the best way we could have done something. But that's where the principles and the nitpicky things make it so much better. Again, they give credit to the emotions when they're applied well. It makes it even more moving when emotions have a backing behind them, when you can be passionate about something that's true, because you cannot substantiate something that does not have truth behind it. And so all the emotion in the world will never make it more meaningful than something that is actually objectively true. It just throws people into more falsity. Yeah, that's like the simplest way to say it. Just, again, perpetuates the cycle. And so the sooner the better. I'm just making sure that I'm not missing anything. Again, there are so many ways that you could think about this and apply this. These are just a couple of the things that stick out to me, and there's probably something else, and we'll probably talk about it in another video. This will come up again, I'm sure. But that's just, it's important, and this is something that I've been thinking about again with things that have happened this week. It's important to keep our emotions in check with the principles, and the sooner we understand the principles and learn the principles, the better it will work out. Sooner. I'm trying to think just to make sure I'm not forgetting anything, but maybe that's just a sign of it's time to stop now. This is good enough. This is, you know, it's worth saying already what I've said. And again, it's not me. This is not me trying to be like, well, I'm not an emotional little baby like everyone else, and everyone else needs to be like me and needs to think like me. Because again, I'm not the A+ student here. I'm not the teacher here. It's a good reminder for all of us. For me, I'm talking to myself. Yep, that's about it, I think, for now. If something comes up, I'll let you know. Maybe this is just a part 1, I don't know. But yeah. Good versus bad, good versus better, sooner versus later. The truth and our emotions work very well when they're used the right way, and they work very bad when they're used not the right way. There's more to life. There's more meaning that comes when you do it, when you apply the principles of objective reality. Yeah. I feel like a broken record a lot, but then again, if the truth never changes, then it's only worth repeating it again. You're not trying to change it. Emotions change enough for both ends. Yeah, okay. I'm done. For now, I guess. Okay. I'll see you next week.